President Trump also weighed in on the subject, tweeting, "For years, even as a civilian, I listened as Republicans pushed the repeal and replace of Obamacare. Now they finally have their chance." Joining us now, Republican Senator Luther Strange of Alabama. Senator Strange, it's a fair point to make, right? Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. It's a very fair point. I've only been in Washington for 4 months now, and I'm still not used to the ways of Washington, but it does seem a little odd that we've made all these promises. We have a limited time to get it done, and here we are still talking about it.
It is sort of hard to believe, right, Steve Forbes? I mean, the promises were there. You heard it all along in 2016, repeal and replace. So here we are, seize the opportunity. There's no plan.
No, they didn't really have a plan, and one of the things they didn't really foresee at all is on the whole conundrum of Medicaid. States got addicted. A lot of them got addicted to this so-called free money they had, and how you reform Medicaid is a real problem.
That's the real sticking point, right, Senator?
And Steve makes a great point. Alabama did the right thing, in my view. We didn't expand our Medicaid program. We let the state be creative, to try to find solutions without expanding. Now you have a number of states, many of them led by Republican governors, who expanded their programs. And like every other government program, it's very hard to give it up once you get it. And that's the crux of the debate.
All right, so bring out your crystal ball. Where does this go? Because now we're talking about what happens with tax reform down the road. Can they get something done on health care?
Well, I think we can get something done. I'm still optimistic. I haven't been there so long that I'm, long enough to not be optimistic. And I think Reince is right. That's why I have proposed, along with other of my colleagues, that we stay there in August and get it done. I mean, we cannot take off an August recess with all these issues pending when hardworking Alabamians and Americans are out there going, what in the world?
Is that realistic to suggest that?
Well, I'm the new guy there in the Senate, but I'm certainly suggesting it. I'm very hopeful that we do. I think it would send a message. Plus, I think we get it done.
So, Senator, what does it take to get it done? There's 8 to 10 holdouts split evenly between moderates and conservatives. And McConnell has a $200 billion war chest to spend to appease the moderates with increases in premium subsidy and patient coverage. What does it take to get the conservatives on board, in your view?
Well, to get me on board, I'd like to see more market-oriented solutions to things. I think we have to have a sustainable Medicaid program if we're going to have one. It's not sustainable right now. And so it would be, I would suspect, baby steps. You have reconciliation to go through. You can't do everything you'd like to do if I were in charge. But I think it's possible. I think what will make the difference to get it done will be the president's personal involvement. He's been involved with me and others, and I think over the next 2 weeks you can see that happen.
What are your thoughts on trying to get Democrats involved? I mean, do you see an opportunity to do some consensus building? I know you're a big supporter of pro-life provisions. That's something that Democrats tend to bristle at. Do you see a way to kind of come together and try to form some sort of consensus?
Well, I think there are a number of things the Democrats would like to see and will probably end up getting out of this whole bill if there's a compromise. Unfortunately, right now, their position is to do nothing. The house is on fire. They're standing on the side of the road, even though they started it. And I think their strategy is to let the Republicans, quote, fail to get a compromise, then come in politically. And if the worst thing that could happen the best thing from their standpoint would be for us to fail and take the Senate back and possibly the House and get single payer ultimately.
So how do you avoid that?
Speaking of that, Senator, the idea of single payer health care has been gaining traction among House and Senate Democrats in recent weeks. Is this idea attractive to you or not?
That's a terrible idea to me. I think we've seen what government involvement in health care does. I want to go in the opposite direction. But the Democrats are fairly well unified in this. And I think if we give them another chance, if they get control of the legislature, Senate, House, and Senate, they will go for single payer. They won't stop.
So how does the Republican Party win the narrative? The Democrats won this narrative right from the beginning by convincing people, tens of millions of people are going to be thrown out in the street. It's just a matter of how many are going to be suffering. Right. How do we reverse that?
Well, I'd like to say that we'll get better at this. They're excellent at it. They're totally united. And when I go home, you literally run into people who think that there are going to be millions of people dying on the streets. So we're the most generous nation in the world. We always take care of people. The question is, how do we pay for it?
But that's the message Democrats have been selling. Mm-hmm. So arguably Republicans have been weak on their messaging and their selling of their views on this.
Well, I have a few message points that may be helpful. This bill has some attributes that are positive for Alabama. In the non-expansion states, there's a $2 billion safety net funding, and there's going to bypass $2 billion of dish cuts that start in 2018 that ramp up to $8 billion in 2024. Mm-hmm. So being a state that didn't expand Medicaid, that's not overburdened with that increase in cost and now budgetary issues, there is a silver lining.
There is, and I'm glad you say that. And my number one priority is making sure Alabama is not mistreated. I think in terms of the narrative and how we sell this, what I hear more than anything else is, Congress, do something. You promised to do something. fix this and fix it in a way that's not just conservative, but it actually involves some common sense. And that's the narrative I'd like to see us pursue.
What are your suggestions on if you can't come up with a consensus and if you can't get something passed, just trying to repeal and then come up with something to replace?
Well, I think common sense would tell you, and to keep our word and to give confidence to the people, we should repeal it. Allow some time period to try and see if the Democrats will come in and negotiate with us and get it done over a period of a couple of years. I'm told that's not possible. I'm not sure why. How you support insurance markets, the fallback that I'm hearing now, I'm not sure how that would work.
All right.
How much real flexibility can you give governors? A lot of states want to do real reform on Medicaid. Indiana wants to do health savings accounts and the like. Kentucky's doing it. Alabama, you mentioned. So if you can pay now but get flexibility, that's going to save a bundle in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, we need to put more power back to the states, health care decisions closer to the people. I'm all for that.
All right, Senator, this morning, a big headline is Russian meddling in the election because a lot went on over the weekend. President Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., saying he met with a Russian attorney last summer after being promised damaging information on Hillary Clinton. Following a New York Times report about that meeting, Trump Jr. said the lawyer, quote, had no meaningful information, and the discussion quickly changed to focus on policies on Russian adoption. As Michael Walsh writes in an op-ed today for the New York Post, quote, in the end, the lawyer had nothing, gave nothing, got nothing in return in a meeting that lasted 20 minutes. Is that a scandal? Your take, Senator.
It is not a scandal based on what I know and understand about the situation. And I have to be honest, as I traveled the state, no one asked me about Russia and Russian involvement in our elections. People assume that they tried to, but they also know that we have a justice system and a congressional investigation that will get to the bottom of this.
Was it wrong for Donald Trump Jr. to have agreed to such meeting in the first place?
You know, my sense is a guy that's an international business person gets connected through a friend and connection, probably not something he would vet that tough. Just getting used to the environment he's in now, probably wouldn't do it again, but I don't hold that against him.
And I'll say, Sandra, I've known Donald Trump Jr. since our days at Wharton together. He's a man of integrity. He's a stand-up guy. This was a 30-minute meeting. Innocuous, non-issue.
He's also a smart businessman, and you know what you see from this meeting is he may not need counterintelligence training to understand that when you're in a business meeting and it's not going the direction you want to go, you're going to walk out of it. And it sounds like it was a short meeting for that reason. But I do want to bring up the counterintelligence perspective because the Russians are slippery. They do use ploys like this to try to touch base with people, and it seems as though we don't really have counterintelligence briefings like we probably should for people who are candidates, because when you're new to the game of the international politics and the way the Russians try to use this type of ploy to get you in and to influence you, it's important for our politicians and our new politicians to understand how they operate.
Excellent point.
I think that's a great point. That is one of the things they do with senators as you come into office. They make it very clear through security. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, but every senator knows there are all kind of methods out there to try and get you to compromise.
All right, lovely to have you this morning, Senator. Good of you to be here.
I'm so glad to be with you.
Can I just get this in there, a little Go Tigers? Because
No,
you know he is a Tulane man.
I played
LSU girl
I
here.
know Tulane man, but she's a real athlete, so you can say Go Tigers.
Okay, fantastic.
That is true about Sandra. She is a true athlete.
Thanks. I'm going to come back here all the time with those compliments. Nice to see you, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All right, well, coming up.